So I'm back again. One of my little fans, okay, has been asking me when I would read again. And I really wanted to oblige him, indulge him. Plus, I have been missing reading out stories. So I thought I'll start a new playlist. This one, not from the hospital, but from my home, okay? As you can see, there are quite a lot of books that I haven't had the heart to give away yet. And there are many, many wonderful stories there, some of which I hope to share with you. So, I realized that when I was reading some of my favorite stories while I was at the hospital, I did not tell you any Indian stories. I really wanted to make up for it. So today I will be reading an Indian story from you. A version, of course, because I've actually heard different versions of this story. This is from a book called More Stories from Indian History. This also happens to be one of the first two books that I ever purchased. I was in 4th standard. I was given a little bit of money because there was a book fair happening at the school. And I went on my own, chose 2 books, okay, on my own, and I came back. And I remember reading both of those in the evening, not wanting to stop, not wanting to, cease, relishing that delight and joy I felt. Yeah. So there are 12 stories in here. This is a collection edited by P.C. Thomas, and it was published by Better Yourself Books in 1992. All right. So I'm going to tell you the first story, the first story of Amrapali. Have you heard the story? If not, allow me. Amrapali. She rustled onto the stage and with folded hands greeted the overcrowded audience. Her smile was like the full moon in the starlit sky. The brilliance of her diamond necklace blinded the audience. Her feet, decorated with golden bells, were impatient to move. The silk dress she wore was half red and half green. Her eyes were sky blue, and she had golden bangles on her wrist. A garland of fresh jasmine flowers twisted around her ebony-colored hair. And as she stood there on the stage, she looked more like a goddess, and the audience went wild with joy. She was Amrapali, the distinguished dancer of Vaishali. She was the center of attention of the whole town of Vaishali. "Dance for us, Amrapali, dance for us," shouted the nobles who sat around on velvet cushions. "Long live Amrapali," said one, throwing some gold coins onto the stage. She pushed aside those shining gold pieces with her feet and motioned to the musicians to strike the right note. Then she danced and danced and danced. The audience swayed in rhythm, clapping their hands, and more gold coins fell onto the stage. I don't know if you know about the town of Vaishali, but this little town of Vaishali sat on a cup of hills on the banks of river Priya in the kingdom of Kalinga. Amrapali's parents had passed away when she was younger, but they had left Amrapali the richest woman in Vaishali. And ever since then, she only had one passion: to dance and dance and to sing. Every evening, she danced for the nobles of Vaishali. They came in their gilded chariots or on horseback to her mansion, which was in the outskirts of the city, and they lavished upon her their wealth and admiration. And in all these years, something strange could be found. No one had proposed marriage to her. Nobody had asked for her hand in marriage. In fact, there were many nobles, many young men in Vaishali who really wanted to ask her to marry him. They longed for the hand of Amrapali, but they did not ask her because they knew that the day she would marry, the singing and dancing would stop. So they all agreed not to mention marriage to her. Very often, Amrapali spoke to her maids. She talked about her desire to marry some nobleman and live a happy life as his wife. And she said, "The whole of Vaishali admires me, yet no one has made even a mention of marriage. What is wrong with me? Am I not the most beautiful woman in Vaishali? Am I not rich? Then why has everyone neglected me? She would lament. The maids would console her. Amrapali, you're the most beautiful woman, not just in Vaishali, in the whole of Vaishali, and perhaps the most of the world, in the whole world. Be patient. One day, some young man will come. Some young prince will come to take you to his palace. Did he come? One winter evening, as the shadows were lengthening, the western sky took a hue of fire. Amrapali danced for the noble men of Vaishali. The performance was going on. Suddenly, in the midst of it, a soldier rushed into the hall and whispered something to one of the noblemen. There was a hurried whispering all around the audience, okay? And soon the men got up and left. Amrapali felt humiliated. She was so angry. But her maid told her that the king of Magadha was marching with his men. Why? He was attacking Vaishali. The nobles had all gone from a performance to prepare for war. War? Amrapali was surprised. She couldn't understand it. Why should men fight and kill each other? Could they not live in peace, loving each other? She asked. I do not know, my lady. It seems that fighting is more important to these men than watching you dance, enjoying it, said one of the maids. Excuse me. Amrapali was really sad. For weeks she did not dance. She could not understand, she just could not understand why men fought and killed one another. And in that time, one day, a stranger came to her house. He asked to see Amrapali. When he stood before her, he said, Noble one, I'm a stranger here. I have heard about your beauty and your talents. Will you dance for me tonight? Amrapali really liked the young man. She consented to entertain him that night. When the dancing was over, the stranger said, Amrapali, will you accept me as your husband? Those words that she had longed to hear for all these years. Somebody had come and said it. And he continued, You will have a palace of your own and an audience 10 times bigger than what you have here. So he was indeed a young prince, maybe, as the maids had foretold. The girl said, Lord, I do not know you. I do not even know your name. And he said, I am Bimbisara, the king of Magadha. My army is camping on the other side of the river. I heard about you and I came to beg you to be my queen. Amrapali was frightened. Are you really the king of Magadha who has come to conquer Vaishali? How could I marry a man whose hands are dripping with blood? No, I shall never marry you. Even if you give me a whole kingdom, I shall never marry you. I will never betray my people. Oh, beautiful one, it is the king's duty to fight and kill. I will take Vaishali and give it to you as a present. You will no more be just a dancer. You will be the queen of Vaishali. No, O king, I will not dance over the dead bodies of my countrymen. You may go now. I do not want to see you again. Vaishali was very adamant. King Bimbisara was very sad as he returned to his camp. He made up his mind to take Vaishali and to make Amrapali his wife. But he could not march on to the city immediately. Why? He heard that Buddha was soon coming to Vaishali. So he waited for the departure of the holy man. He was afraid that Buddha would ask him to return to Magadha without fighting or attacking Vaishali, without conquering the city. Buddha did come. When Buddha reached Vaishali with his disciples, the whole city went out to welcome him. He spoke to the people about peace and love. He said, do not steal, do not kill, do not commit adultery, Be faithful. Be truthful to your words. Avoid intoxicating drinks. If you do all of this, you will enjoy peace and you will live in love. I do not promise you wealth or power, pleasure or comfort, but I invite you to live a life of virtue, knowledge, and self-control, and always guard against evil. Amrapali was also present at this meeting, and she was very moved by his words. And she thought, I must renounce my life of pleasure. I must seek the Master's help, she said to herself. And when the people dispersed, Amrapali stayed behind. She approached one of the disciples and said, Holy One, I am Amrapali. I would like to have a word with the Master. May I, please? The disciple's name was Upagupta. He led her to Buddha. She fell at his feet and said, Noble One, will you and your disciples stay at my home for the night? Buddha placed his hands on her head and said, Yes, we will. Amrapali rushed home to prepare a sumptuous meal for Buddha and his disciples. When they came, she and her maids received them with all respect. When the meal was over, Amrapali sat at the feet of Buddha and said, Master, I am the richest woman in the whole of Vaishali, but I have never felt the peace in my heart that I feel right now. I am placing at your feet all my properties, including this mansion and all my gardens, my mango groves. Please turn this into a monastery. My maids and I will renounce the whole world and will follow you as your disciples. Please accept me. Accept me. Buddha was very pleased. He called Upagupta. He asked him to turn the house into a monastery for women. It was the first time Buddha had accepted female disciples into his fold. Buddha taught Amrapali all about the new religion he was preaching. He gave her the saffron habit of a monk and even made her the head of that monastery. As time passed, more and more women of Vaishali came to live in that house as monks. Certain days, the people of Vaishali still walked to Amrapali's house, but not to see her dance, but to hear her speak about Buddha and his teachings. The people of Vaishali called her mother and learned to live in peace and love. That's all for today. Of course, as I said, I myself have heard different versions, especially about the Bimbisara episode where the king comes. Yeah, but this is the version that I've read to you from the book that I bought. I hope you really like the story, and I will be back with more such stories, especially from Indian backgrounds. Bye bye.